will be accepted, and I hope you enjoyed the long holidays for our new year. So we start our class. I wanted to review the whole chapter up to here. It's slide 22 that we want to start from here, but because today we have one session, okay, we have only one class, I prefer to go further, start exactly from here, and then in the next session we go back and review the whole chapter, the whole authentication chapter. So here I start from the from this slide, from where we left last session, but please remind me in the next session, in the next class, that we review the whole chapter. Okay? Yes, Rasha. You can either type it or I can give you microphone. It's up to you. Thank you, Osek. Rasha, if it's possible, okay, keep your question until the next week, because next week I will review that part and then you can ask your question. Is it okay? Okay, because today we don't have much time. We have only one session, and when I start this lecture, I want to make sure that I finish it this session. Okay, it's about authentication on network, but for sure next week we will review, and we will review from the start of this chapter, and then you can ask your question. Okay, thank you. So the next thing, if you remember in the thank you for understanding, you see we started this chapter talking about the authentication. Authentication in Arabic, I think it's a salat. Okay, and then when we talked about authentication, we divided into two different subjects or two different categories. First is authentication. I'm writing in the note. You can take a look at the note, especially those who come with the cell phones to the class. Make sure that you see everything. So the first thing is authentication on the system, like login, and the next part of this chapter it's about authentication on the network. Okay, so these two different subjects were the subjects that we started to talk about. We finished authentication on system, as Rasha also said. We talked about the Linux system, we talked about the Windows, we talked about the salt, which was very important, and we add the salt to prevent dictionary attack, and so on and so forth. We will review it next week, but today we want to talk about authentication on the network. The problem for authentication on the network is that when you have someone on the network and you create a session, and it's in Farsi we also say جلسة. Okay, yeah, but write it in Arabic. In Farsi we say جلسة. Okay, thank you, Saleh. When we start a session, okay, in Farsi and Arabic we say جلسة. Okay, we start a session on the network. We don't know whether or either of the parties are the people who they are claim or not. Okay, for example, when we talk together, I don't know whether Hussein is Hussein, or I don't know whether Rasha is Rasha, because we do not see each other. Okay, so when somebody logins and say, okay, I'm A, the problem is that how do I know that the A is really A? For example, your lecturer is really your lecturer, or Hussein is really Hussein, or I don't know, Yasem is really Yasem. Okay, for this one we want to make a protocol to that based on that protocol we can recognize or the people on the other side of the line, or we make sure that the people that they are there, they are the people who claim to be. Okay, so we go to the first scenario. You see in the network, when on the other side of the line Alice says that I'm Alice. Okay, we use Alice and Bob because the letters for the first letter of each name start with A and B. So we have A and B and T to elaborate the connection on the network. Always A wants to communicate with B, and always T, which is, you can call it hacker or intruder or attacker. Okay, well, we have T also, which is the T is here, hacker, intruder or attacker, that we want to sniff or a spoof or whatever it is. Okay, a sniff the communication, a spoof the communication, or whatever it is. So Alice says I'm Alice to the Bob on the network. It's the failure scenario because at the same time anyone on the network like Trudy can also say I'm Alice. Like for example, if I see your names, I don't know whether Ibrahim is Ibrahim. Okay, I don't see him, and everybody can log in with his username and his password. Okay, and the network, even without username and password, it works like in this scenario. So we call this one a failure scenario because the T or Trudy can also claim that it's Alice. So we go to another scenario. We use Alice IP address. We say if Alice says to the Bob, okay, I'm Alice, we check IP address of the Alice to make sure that it's Alice or no. This is also a failure scenario because we have IP spoofing. Okay, and if the Trudy, walaikum assalam, if the Trudy has access to the network itself or has access to the Alice gateway or Bob gateway, it can change the IP addresses, its own IP addresses, to a spoof Alice IP address. Or also DNS attacks can lead to IP spoofing. So the problem is that when somebody has access to the routing or has access to the gateway, it can claim that it's somebody else, and it's easy. Also using VPN, you can use, all of you know that you can, using VPN you can change the IP address, easily change your own IP address. So this is also a failure scenario. I will go to the next one, like in systems in previous chapter, that we use passwords. Okay, we use passwords and we hash them, use the encryption and so on and so forth. We can use password that make sure that the Alice is Alice. But here also on the network we have problem of sniffing. Okay, for example, if I ask Rasha to give me the password that I know it's Rasha or it's the original person that I'm talking to him. Okay, if his password is like this and he types the password for me, everybody that sniff on the network can see the password. So everybody else again can use the password and say, okay, I'm Rasha. So you see, when Alice says with the password I'm Alice, Again, intrude can sniff the communication. It can sniff the communication. It can record the communication and then provide the same thing to the Bob, the same password to the pub. You see, even if the password it's easy like a recording device. Okay, it's easy like a recording device when you sniff. Even it's not important whether you understand or you don't understand the password. You just copy it, you record and replay. You see the password, you sniff the channel. If it's in plain text, if it's in plain text, you record the password and then replay it to the other party, and then you can use Ali's password. So it's also a failure scenario. If if the Alice encrypts its password, okay, for example, if again I give Rasha or Hossein or Ali a password and I say, okay, this is your password, okay, Reza123, okay, and then you encrypt it, and the hash of the password becomes something like this. Okay, I ask them to encrypt it, and then I ask them to send the encrypted password. Again, this password you can copy from chat, okay, and you reuse it. So again, if you sniff the channel, you can use, or more precisely we can say you can reuse the password. Again, it's not important whether you understand it or no. So it is again a failure scenario. So these were the methods that we use in operating systems, but we cannot use them on the network because of the problem. And you learn about the one attack that we call it replay attack, and again we talked about the sniff and we talked about the spoof or spoofing. Okay, these were the things that we reviewed and we discussed through this session. So what can we do on the network is that when Alice says I'm Alice, we use the keys. On the network we use keys that are already taught you, and I said keys are very important. We have the symmetric keys and asymmetric keys, and public and private keys, and I said they are very important in the next chapter, so here we need them. Okay, so when Alice says I'm Alice, Bob should create something which is important in the security, and we call it nonce. So here you should learn about nonce. Nonce is this is a definition of nonce. يستخدم لمرة واحدة فقط. Okay, nonce is something that we can use only once, one time use only, and it's very important in the security. So Bob, when he wants to authenticate Alice, that Alice says okay I'm Alice, he creates or generates something that we call it nonce. It can be pseudo random number, okay, or it can be based on time and date. If you hash the current time and current date, you will be can make sure that it's unique, because we said that the hash creates unique outputs based on the unique input, and current date and time, it's always unique. Okay, anything. Letters, maybe you create a repetitive nonce, or it can be incremental, but not just sequential incremental plus random, something like that. Okay, but you should have a formula to create your own nonce. You should have a formula to create your own nonce. When you create a nonce and you give it to Alice, you say, okay, this is the nonce, and now you encrypt it with your with key or with our shared key. Okay, this is the shared key, symmetric key between the Alice and the Bob that you have in the figure, Alice and the Bob. So you create a nonce as Bob and send it to Alice, and Alice encrypt it with the common key and send it back to the Bob. Okay, send it back to Bob. When it sends back to Bob, if you can decrypt the claim, if you can decrypt the claim, it means that it's Alice. If you cannot decrypt the claim, it means that it's not Alex. But a nonce, it is form of formal. Function of function of formula that you created. Okay, you can, for example, create it based on the date, current date and time. You should have a function to create it. Yes, correct. For example, consider that my nonce start from 5000. Okay, and then I add one random number to it to make it, for example, next nonce should be something like this, and next nonce maybe something like this, but should be greater than the previous one. Okay, but they shouldn't be in a way that the attacker can guess. Okay, it's important. Okay, it should be in a way that attacker cannot guess. If it can guess, that the whole system will fail. Okay, so Alice encrypt the nonce and send it back. If you can decrypt it and the nonce is there, so it's Alice. If you decrypt it and the nonce is not there, so it's not Alice. Now the problem with the replay attack already been solved, because you know, if the Trudy record the communication, if the Trudy record the communication and resend the recorded encrypted, for example, password or nonce. Okay, you see, if Trudy record the communication, okay, and after recording resend the recorded encrypted password and nonce, Bob does not authenticate the Trudy because he says that you already used it once. In our lives, in real life, in real communication, almost every day you use nonces. Okay, for example, when you want to log into banks, they send you SMS. Okay, or when you want to log into, for example, sites, they send you emails, or I don't know, even sometimes they call you, Facebook, Telegram, WhatsApp, even they call you, they make a phone call and give you a number like this. Okay, for example, one number, and say, okay, type this number. This is nonce. Okay, you always use nonce. I'm sure that everybody in this class has the experience using nonces. When you use it one time, you cannot use it again. So if somebody sniffs the nonce, is useless, and it protects you from replay attack. It protects you from replay attack. Okay, we also, okay, Ibrahim, when checking the received password must be stored. Yes, exactly, Ibrahim. Yes, it's correct. The result should be positive or negative. It is saying it's correct. But after you used, you used it, you can throw it away. Okay. So also we can use the public and private keys, asymmetric keys. Okay, also we can use asymmetric keys. Here it discusses that reading the data from the database or server can get out the public key, but something that I mentioned here is not about the data and database. You see, when you have a communication, one-to-one communication, it's okay to use symmetric keys. Okay, but when you have one-to-many or many-to-many, it's not okay to use symmetric keys. So you should use asymmetric keys. Okay, so for many-to-many or one-to-many, asymmetric keys are better choice. So Alice will say that I'm Alice, and Bob will send Alice R. If you remember from the public and private key, public key of everyone like Alice, it's on the internet, or you can download it, or you can have it. It's not something hidden. So Bob has Alice public key, but the Alice private key is only in hand of the Alice itself. So Alice will encrypt R with its private key and send it to Bob, and Bob decrypt it. If the nonce is there, so it means that it's really Alice. If it's not there, it means that it's not Alice. So remember that when we talked about a sniffing, here a sniffing doesn't work, because if the attacker record the communication and it replay everything because of R, which was one time use, یستخدم لمرة واحدة فقط, okay, because it was one time use, so it cannot reuse the communication. And if the Trudy wants to claim to be Alice, must have Alice.private key, that in our assumption it doesn't have. So I will repeat this part on the board. I will put one example, then we go to the next section that I will introduce the KDC and CA for you. You see, even in, for example, cars or doors, okay, it's not important which area we use it, we always use it. You see, for example, it's a car, and it's a remote. Okay, when you use the remote to the car, that for example, or to automatic door of a house, that you say, or a garage, to say okay, open. Okay, you send the open command. Trudy can listen, استماع in Arabic if I'm not mistaken. Okay, Trudy can listen. Okay, record, and then replay. So when the Trudy or attacker, Trudy or attacker, when the Trudy replay what you said here, even it's encrypted or you used hash function or DES or TKIP, it's not important how complicated is the method that you used for encryption. It's not important. When Trudy recorded, okay, and replayed, it's recorded and replayed, the car will open the door. But here, even in cars, they use nonce. It's not sorry, it's not as easy as this one, because when it says open, for example, it uses a nonce which is auto increment, okay, and not in a guessable order. For example, it's R, it says open with, for example, 11896, okay, and the car will open the door. Next time when it sends open, it should be, for example, 1229, for example, 10 8, something like that, okay. It should have formula. So when Trudy records the communication and it sends the command open 11897, will it open? Yes or no? No, because it's already been used. You see, for the first time it's already been used. One time, no, one time, yeah, use only, because that number already been used, so the car won't open the door. So you see, this, it's impossible for the cars, okay, or even for doors of the shops and the garage and everything, for you to listen, record the communication. And because it's wireless, when it says, for example, open, the signal goes everywhere in the range of wireless. You can listen and you can repeat. You can listen and repeat, but the door, yes, you can record and replay it, but the door won't open. So this is the concept of nonce. It's very important in the security, okay. And for the symmetric key, the second concept that we discussed, for example, if this is A or Ali and if this is B, Bob, for the symmetric key, if they want to communicate, they should have no, Ali, the door cannot send signal, the remote sends the signal, okay. Yes, exactly, Hossein. Each attempt, new password, but it has a formula that the sender and receiver both know. For example, the door and the remote both know the formula. Even for the cars is like that. When you open the door of the cars, okay, if you copy the signal, you cannot open the lock. You can try it like on BMW or I don't know, on Hyundai or Honda, okay, you cannot open the door. If you record the signal and replay, you cannot. Yes, always with the new formula. So the second thing that we discussed, it was about the symmetric keys. You see, if you remember, symmetric keys means that the key that the A has, for example, the key is I don't know, n equal to 3, okay. With the key that the B or the next entity has its same, so it's also n is equal to 3. They use the same key. It's fast, it's easy to implement, okay. Symmetric keys, they are fast and they are easy to implement. But if you have many of, for example, B and C and M and K, when you have many of the people, for example, A wants to communicate with M and also C and K maybe wants to communicate with B, and then K also maybe wants to communicate with C, it's actually impossible to use symmetric keys. Okay, so something which is important for you to remember, we say symmetric keys. Okay, I'll write in the notes. Symmetric keys are suitable for one-to-one communications. Symmetric keys are suitable for one-to-one communications and one-time use only. If you have one-to-many or if you have many-to-many communication, symmetric keys are not suitable. So let's go back to the slides that we talk about the new concepts here. Mustafa. Yes, sure, Mustafa. It's one of the students, I think Ali Asif was the representative, and he used to translate, or Rasha or any other of the students who are volunteer to explain it. Anyone? I will go back to the board, and the symmetric key is in the notes. Ali, if you can just raise your hand, I will give you the microphone. Okay. You can explain for everybody.
السلام عليكم دكتور.
وعليكم السلام.
How are you, Doctor?
Ali, can you just explain the example with the cars and something I wrote in the note? Symmetric keys are suitable for one-to-one communication, not one-time use. Just explain this for the students in Arabic. Thank you.
Okay, Doctor. السلام عليكم أخوان. بالنسبة للمفاتيح السيمتريك المتناظرة، يعني المفاتيح المتناظرة يمكن استخدامها بالاتصالات اللي تكون one to one، يعني مثلا A و B عندنا طرفين، يعني تكون بيناتهم مراسلات أو هيك شيء، يعني طرفين فقط نستخدم بها المفاتيح السيمتريك. أو الاتصالات اللي تكون one time use، يعني استخدام لمرة واحدة، يعني استخدام مرة واحدة مثل الشرح الأستاذ اللي هي النونس سموها. هسه مثلا عندنا هذا المثال مال السيارة، هي تعتبر يعني 1 to 1، يعني الريموت نقدر نعتبرها A والسيارة نعتبرها B، فيقدر يستخدم المفتاح السيمتريك المتناظر بين السيارة وبين الريموت. هاي شغلة. وشغلة ثانية النونس شلون يتولد، قال الدكتور انه يعني كل مرة اكو رقم جديد، يعني يظهر رقم جديد يرسل الريموت، خلينا نقول الريموت مال السيارة يرسل للسيارة كل مرة رقم جديد، وما يصير يستخدمه مرة ثانية هذا الرقم، يعني يستخدم لمرة واحدة فقط هذا الرقم حتى يفتح لنا السيارة. مثلا إذا نضغط على مفتاح الفتح، وهذا طبعا الرقم ينولد حسب يعني حسب فورمة معينة، يعني مو بشكل عشوائي، حسب صيغة معينة أو حسب معاملة معينة، يعني تكون مبرمجة عليه الريموت والسيارة بنفس الوقت. فبكل مرة ينولد رقم جديد، يعني يتولد رقم جديد من خلال الريموت وتنفتح به السيارة. هو هذا الرقم يسمونه النونس اللي شرح عليه الأستاذ دكتور. النونس we can use it only in symmetric keys.
No. It's the technology, okay? It's a technique. When you use nonce, you can use nonce anywhere. When you use nonce, it means that once you used the first nonce, the second nonce will be different. Sender and receiver will both know the formula, okay, and they know what is the next nonce, but nobody else can understand.
Yeah, we can use it in asymmetric key also.
Yes, also can use.
اوكي. فهنا اخوان النونس نقدر نستخدمها يعني بالسيمتريكي وبالاسيمتريك، بالمتناظر وغير متناظر، يعني 1 to 1 1 to many many to many. ايضا نقدر نستخدم المفتاح اللي هو النونس. ان شاء الله واضح يعني.
Okay, thank you, Ali. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Okay, so let's continue. I'll go back to the slide. Okay, so you see, we said that here we can use also asymmetric keys with the public and private key for Alice to know that it's Alice. We solve the problem of the replay attack using R, okay, or nonce. We used R to solve the problem of replay attack, and also we said that we can easily use the public and private key, but there are some problems, okay, using the public and private key. It's that, for example, if I give you some key and say, okay, this is Alice dot public key, okay. For example, if I give this key to you, from where you understand that, okay, this is really Alice's key, okay, from where you can understand this is really Alice's key. That's one problem, okay. And the second problem is that when you have many to many communication, not all of the parties know each other, okay, not because there are many people, many different people that communicate with each other, not all of them know each other. So here we introduce a new concept that we call it KDC. Okay, it's a center. In Farsi we say merkez, okay, in Arabic also I think merkez. Okay, in Farsi and Arabic we say merkez. There should be a center or somebody like in Farsi again we say dalal, okay, or wasiteh or rabit. I think you use also in Arabic one of them, same as Farsi. Okay, there should be dalil, yes, there should be someone or some center that it's in charge of exchanging and introducing the key. Because you see, when you receive somebody's public key, how do you know that it's really its key? For example, if I give you one key, I say, okay, this is google.public key. Okay, are you sure this is really Google's public key? So for this center can create something, we call it a certificate that can assure that the key that you receive it's original or it's really Google's public key. Again, I go to the board to tell you what's the problem here. Then we go here. You see, we said that when A wants to send information to B, we don't know whether it's A or no. So something that we do, we send something, we call it nonce. We say something like nonce and we ask A to encrypt it with either shared symmetric key. It was one method. Okay, shared symmetric key between A and B, or private key of A. Okay, we talked about this one, shared symmetric key between A and B, and we said that in many-to-many communication it's not possible. We also said that we can use private key of A. If A applies A dot private dot key of the nonce, you see, if A applies its private key on the nonce and send it back to B, okay, so here's something that B needs. It needs A dot public dot key to make sure that it's A. Okay, so here we went one step further and we said if B, I put it here, if B gets A dot public key, this one, is it really A's public key? Because for example, you see, we can have a scenario that if we have a Trudy, okay, and Trudy uses Trudy dot public dot key, okay, and then Trudy rename it to a dot public dot key and wrap it, put it in a beautiful box. Okay, and send it for B. You see, if something like this happens, okay, if Trudy does this, send its own public key as a dot public key to B, B will reject A as A and will accept Trudy as B. So A says Trudy is B, and also A says B is not B. Okay, did you get it, or you need Ali to explain it? Everybody okay? So we go to just Ali explain, please. You see that this is a problem that we want to fix with KDC. This is a problem that we want to solve with using KDC. We agree on the T as A Hussein, as A. You see, the reason that you can recognize A, okay, the reason that you can recognize A is A public key. So if the Trudy sends its own public key as a public key, again it's a failure scenario. You cannot recognize A. Okay, I will write it again here. You see, this is the Trudy public key. Okay, this is A dot public key. T is the Trudy or attacker or hacker. Okay, this is the A public key and this is the Trudy public key. If you just remove this one, okay, and change this one as A, thank you Muhammad, A dot public key. Okay, you rename through this public key to A dot public key and then send it to B. What happens? You just imagine what happens next. You write in the box what happens next. Yes, what is the problem? Yes, exactly. Hussein, can't you also write it in Arabic? Okay. Yes. So this is it. The key for the recognizing who is A and who is T are the public key. But if the public key compromised, okay, if the public key compromised, or if the public key, they are not real public keys, again you will have the problem. That's why we introduced the KDC, and we introduced the certificate authority, and we introduced certificate. Okay, so we start our new concept from here. We start our new concept from here. So we should have, again, let me remove some of them. A and B, it's okay, we need them. And also I need T. Okay. We want to talk about this communication, which you can see here between A and B, and also we have Trudy or attacker. Okay, we add one center or مرکز in Arabic, one center or مرکز, that we call it KDC, or we call it certificate authority. It's somebody that everybody know and can trust. Okay, it's somebody that everybody know and can trust. It's something like in Iran, for example, we can say it can be bank مرکزی. Okay, somebody that everybody knows and can trust. On internet, you can say Google, you know and you can trust. It can be Microsoft. Okay, for example, those who provide operating systems, those who provide browsers. Okay, for example, Apple. Okay, these are the certificate authorities, okay, or KDCs that you know and you can trust. Okay, so what happens when B goes to, for example, yes, we should talk about the A. When A wants to send its public key or generates its public key or put it on the internet or send it through the email, that our problem is that we don't know whether it is A's public key or not. Okay, A will go to KDC impersonal. Okay, we'll go to KDC and then provide KDC with A dot public key. It gives A dot public key and also proof. What is proof? شناسنامه. What is it in Arabic? هویت or something like that. What is شناسنامه? اثبات هویه, yes. Or کارت ملی card, for example. National ID card. Okay, it provides everything to KDC. It says, okay, I'm A and these are the proofs, these are a spot, okay, اثبات هویه, and this is my public key. So just pay attention here. Here A dot public key will be encrypted using KDC dot private key. it will encrypt it using kdc.private key. It becomes something like this. Okay, and then kdc, and also I forgot to add this one. Here it says that, okay, this is A. It says this is A, and this is a.public key. Let me put it first here. Okay, this is A and a public key, and it's encrypted with kdc.private key, and then it returns this box, this encrypted to A. We call this one A dot certificate. We call this one A dot certificate. Let me wanted to move through the, never mind. Okay, we call this one A dot certificate, and it will return it to A. So you see, again, just because I want to delete this one, remember this nonce and private key and so on and so far, I will remove it. Okay, again we start from the beginning. You see, when B goes to A and say, okay, who are you, or I want to communicate with you. Okay, A says, okay, I'm A. It says, so B says, who are you? It says, I'm A. Okay, and then B says, okay, now it's the time that B should send the nonce and encrypt it there, but B will ask, okay, what is your certificate or public key? Okay, and then I just put KDC a little bit down. I say, okay, this is my certificate. You see what B receives. Okay, what B receives is that it's KDC private key that encrypted the something. It's like a package which we don't know what is inside. Okay, and for sure B knows KDC, and also A knows KDC. So when you know somebody, you have KDC dot public key. When you know KDC, you have KDC dot public key. You apply KDC dot public key. You apply KDC dot public key on this box. What comes out? It says that it's A, and it's A dot public key. This is something that comes out. Now for B here, from now on, for B, it has A dot public key. Now it starts, we go back to the previous story. It starts sends to, no, I take this one out. T, put it here. Start sending or nonce and say, okay, encrypt it. And it's the A will encrypt it with A dot private dot key, okay, and send it to B, and B will apply A dot public dot key, and B will apply A dot public key to open the encrypted text. And when it's R, it says okay. Okay, so this is the whole story about the certificate and KDC, KDC, Key Distribution Center, that generates and distribute the public keys for everybody. Just review it for a while, and then if it's necessary, I will explain it again for you. Private key, Russia, private key, yes, it's different from public key. And send why? Yes, you see the problem here, Russia, it's two different stories, okay? The first is about the data, the second is about the keys, okay? The data cannot, something that you said, the data cannot, but the key can, okay? It's two things. For the key, if you send somebody's key, for example, T's key, as B's key, A's key to B, is always been mistaken by B. Okay, that's different problem. We talk about keys, not the data. It's possible. This means that, Hossein, each public key has its own KDC that other than cannot. No, it's not like that, but I will explain that one. Just review this one, because I want to change the word. Just review this one, the scenario, or even you can a screenshot, make a screenshot and put it in the group. Okay, you can do that. So I will explain this one, Hossein. I will explain, and Rasha, I will explain it for Hossein. Maybe you can get what's the problem. There are two things. One thing is that we talk about the data. Okay, we said that it's impossible to for Trudy to access the data or change the data, or say, for example, I'm A, but for the keys we had a problem. We want to talk about the keys. So okay, if you got, I will go to another board to see what comes out of this one, the whole story, you see. So we should have some trusted parties on the internet. Okay, I will put those who provide operating systems, Microsoft, and then Google, and then Apple. Okay, only these three. Okay, so consider you have a browser. This is what happens in real life. You have a browser which is Chrome. Chrome, which of these companies the Chrome understands or realizes? Which company? Google's, exactly. Google's public key built-in in the code. Okay. So you see, Chrome has Google's public key built in the code. Okay, so you go to one browser with Chrome, you go to one website. Consider that, for example, you go to slash I don't know which site. YouTube is for, okay, Facebook. Okay, you go to facebook.com. Chrome or your computer does not know the Facebook. Okay, so you will ask it what is your certificate. It will give you its certificate. What is Facebook certificate? It's Facebook dot public key, we say signed by, and also it's this is real Facebook encrypted by or signed by Google dot private key. So the Facebook will give this one to you and says, okay, this is my certificate. Something that inside it's written Facebook.public key. This is real Facebook, and it has been encrypted with Google.private key. Okay, so the Chrome already had Google.private public key, so we'll decrypt it and get the out of this box. It will get Facebook.public key. Okay, now it sends to the Facebook. Okay, now encrypt this part. This is the nonce. Okay, and Facebook will encrypt it with Facebook dot private key. And then your Google Chrome, okay, will decrypt it with Facebook dot public key. If the R is R, it says okay, this is Facebook. If the R is not R, it says okay, this is not Facebook. You see, something that we added to the scenario is that something that you have here in here, we call this one certificate of Facebook. You always ask Google, because you work with Google, you always ask Google, is this public key related to the person that it claims or no? And you see, Trudy cannot do that, because if the Trudy, even if I put Trudy here, if the Trudy goes to Google and say, okay, I'm Trudy, something that Google will gives it, it says that it's T and it's T dot public key with all the شناسنامه and identification and ID card and بطاقه or something like that. Okay, and then this is which has been encrypted with Google dot private key. Something that can only be opened with Google dot public key, something like that. So we call this one through this certificate, and we call this one Facebook certificate, and for everybody on the internet we create certificates, and we get the certificate from the operating system or those who provided the what we could say, the navigators or browsers. Okay, for example, Firefox, Microsoft, Apple, Google, and those who provide the browsers and also operating system, they can create certificate for others that your browser can understand that that's the real person and it's not the problem. So you see, the first step is, and I appreciate after I wrote this one, you translate this one is in Arabic, okay, to Arabic. The first step is to get someone's public key. The second step is to use that public key along with nonce to communicate. So the first step is to get someone's public key, that we call it certificate. And the second step, when we have someone's public key, it's easy. We send R, it encrypts it, and if the encryption was okay, then we know that it's the person and we can easily communicate. Okay, I appreciate if one of you, Ali, or anyone else, write the same thing in Arabic, or even if easier for you, discuss it in Arabic. Okay, هو الحصول على الإفطار. Thank you, Rasha. Yes, exactly, Ali. You see, public key is a key that everybody can have, but it's related to you. Private key is something that, or a key that only you have. Again, it's related to you. Something that you encrypt with private key can be opened with public key, and something can be encrypted with public key will be decrypted with private key. Thank you, Rich. So also, if you want to take a screenshot, please do it quickly, because I want to also explain the last thing and then we finish the class. So another thing is about the many-to-many communication. When, for example, two banks want to work together, for example, you want to transfer money with ATM of one bank to account which is related to another bank. Okay, there's also we have the application of KDC. So we will have KDC again, we will have KDC here, and we will have A as Alice, and we will have B as Bob. Okay, consider that they want to communicate together, and they want to use symmetric key, one time use only, and they all have the keys themselves. Ibrahim, the first step, yes, it's to get the public key of the person you want to communicate with. And sometimes you see it doesn't happen all the times. When you get the public key once, maybe you communicate with it, I don't know, for weeks and months and years, but the first time you should have the public key. If you have the public key, you just start with communication. Okay? No, the nonce will in this scenario B will generate it. The nonce B will generate it and send it to A to make sure that the A is original A, or for example it's T. Okay, if it can encrypt it with private key, which the public key we have, we make sure that it's the same person. If not, we make sure that it's not the same person. We reject the communication. Okay, so here you see, for example, if somebody like B wants to communicate with A, okay, and then A will go to KDC and says, okay, we want to communicate together, and we need one time use Ali, it does not generate private keys, it approves public keys. Yeah, I repeat again, you see the KDC approves private keys, public keys, only approves, not generating. But this one I will explain again. After this scenario I will explain again. Okay, so for example, we have A and B that they have one time used, they need one time used symmetric key to communicate. For example, in Farsi we say kart be kart, okay, something like that, for communicating. Or when you go to other bank and you want to withdraw from the another bank which ATM is not related to that bank. For example, you go to Bank Sepah but you want to withdraw from Bank Milli, okay, it's like that. So the B wants to communicate with A, and A will go to KDC and says, okay, I am A, okay, and this is, yeah, yes, thank you, son. I am A and this is B, and we need one session key. Ibrahim, no, Ibrahim, it won't be. Any scenario will fail. The whole class we discussed it, we reached this point that we protect everything. But I will explain it later, okay? Let me finish this one. So you see, B will send the information to A, okay, and then A will go to KDC and it says, okay, I'm A and this is B, and we need to communicate, and we need one session key. Something that KDC will send A, it's in the slide, it's that something which is encrypted with A dot public key, okay, and then one nonce and B dot public key, and then the other party is A. So you see, something that KDC generates is this one, and it gives it directly to A. Say, okay, use this one to communicate with each other. And also yes, one R, I missed one R. Okay, A dot R and B dot public key. R and the other party is okay. Now it's correct. So the KDC will generate this one and give it to A. Try to process this string, just to review it for yourself. You see, A dot public key, it has been encrypted with A dot public key. So who can decrypt this string, the first part? It has been encrypted with A dot public key. What we need to decrypt this part? No, KDC cannot open this string. It already made this string but cannot open it. What do you need? What do you need to open it? Just start from the left side. Start from this side. What do you need to open it? Just write a string that we need to open this string. No R, but B dot public key. No, it's not that. Something which has been encrypted with A dot public key. What can I use to open it? No, it has been encrypted with public key, but it's not public, it's encrypted. You see, when you want to open something which has been encrypted with A dot public key, you should use A dot private key. Who has A dot private key? A, okay? When A opens it, you reach this string, okay, the next of the string, so you open. The first thing that A can get is R. It's a nonce, so it has the nonce, and nobody else can open this string, only A can open. But there is a still encrypted part. A will send this part to B. So the string has been encrypted with B dot public key. What should we have to open this string? What should we have to open the second part of the string? Exactly. So I will put b dot private key here to open this one. Okay, b dot private. And who has the b dot private key? Only b. So b open this one, and something that b gets is that it's r. Okay, the nonce or the symmetric key that they want to use, and then it says the other party is a. Who says the other party is a? KDC says. Okay, the other party is a. So you see, now on the a side we have r, on the b side we have r. On the a side we know that the other party is b. On the b side we know that the other party is a. They start communication using symmetric one time used R key, and then when finished throw it away. When finished throw it away. So this is it. KDC will provide one-time use symmetric key for two entities to communicate with each other. It's like this. So the KDC has two different responsibilities. First, generate. I will write it here, and I appreciate if you write it in Arabic. This was the last thing we discussed in this class. KDC A use private key to encrypt, and B use private key to decrypt. Both use private key to decrypt. Both used to here Rashad, both used to decrypt. So KDC has two responsibilities. KDC has two responsibilities. First, generate certificate. Second, provide one-time use provide one-time use symmetric keys for communication. It's two different responsibilities of KDC, or we call it KDC or certificate authority. We call it KDC or certificate authority. So these are two responsibilities. But something that I mentioned at the beginning of the class, I try to finish this part as well, and next week we have two sessions. I will repeat and review what we discussed in authentication for the systems and authentication for the network. We will review the whole chapter. Here this chapter finished. Only one thing about the scalability left that I will explain in the next session. Yes, exactly, Ali. R means nonce. Yeah, it's here also we use this nonce as a symmetric key, one time use symmetric key. Okay, what else? So KDC generates nonce in this scenario. Yes, in this scenario KDC generates nonce. Yes, but in that scenario, the previous 2 or 3 previous slides, no, it was the bulb that generates the nonce. So yes, Ehsan, R is the key, a symmetric key that they use for example, one communication or one session, and then they will throw it away. Okay, this is a key that is generated by KDC that they use for one session and then throw it away. For example, just consider that, for example, Bank Sepah want to communicate with Bank, for example, Millat in Iran. Okay, and we have Bank Markazi as KDC. Okay, so Sepah will go to Millat, Millat will go to Bank Markazi. Bank Markazi creates a string for these two to just does one transaction, one money transfer, and then they threw the key away. It's like that. Okay, if any question you can ask. If not, we can finish the class here, and then next week, don't worry if you just got a little bit, it's also Ramadan and first session after 2 weeks holiday. If you got a little bit confused, I will explain it again later, both the system authentication and network authentication in the next session. Rasha, I have no idea about the recording and uploading. I just press record, okay, and then I press stop and it will go there. Sometimes I think it's technicians of the university that optimize the videos and put it there. Okay, it has nothing to do with me. You can ask the university about the videos. I have no idea about them. I just record them and stop recording. The rest is with the university. Okay? and hopefully they will put on the portal soon. Okay, all the best inshallah.